The last time she was on the show, she was Kristi Block. Now she joins us again. She's Kristi Barker. She's still one of the great Yeah, there it is. It's the wedding ring. Kristi, how are you? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Of course. I mean, the first time was so popular, and you know me, I take a very holistic approach to, life, obviously, wellness and golf too. And you do a wonderful job on social media with illustrating exercises for wellness and such, but you're an athlete and you bring an athletic bent to stuff too. So introduce yourself to the fans and then we'll dive right into it, please.
All right. So as you said, I'm Kristi Barker. I'm a physical therapist. And yeah, I played Division I volleyball. So I part of my drive to play sports hasn't really left my body. So I'm still consider myself an athlete. So thanks, Mark, for saying that. But I believe everyone is an athlete. So that's how I like to treat my patients. If you're wanting to run a half marathon, then we're going to get you to reach that goal. So my husband is in love with golf. I am too, but maybe not quite as much as my husband. So I definitely have some great exercises that I've given him and he has really enjoyed for his game. So,
okay. You played volleyball. Was it injury that ended the career, or was it just you were wanting to get into the physiotherapy side of?
Actually, I did the full 4 years. So in the States, it's only 4 years. So I did the full 4 years in Arkansas, Little Rock.
Oh, cool. That's where some of the American accent comes from for our Canadian guest. All right, Kristi. I challenged you for us lazy golfers out there, and some of us older folks, the gray whiskers and stuff, to give us a few exercises that will help us with overall well-being. It also kind of improve the golf game a little bit too.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
why don't we tee off with the stuff that everyone can kind of do, and they're going to help you feel better and get better and stronger and more mobile. And at the end, I might let you put a cherry on the top with one or two heavy duty things. You good?
Love it. Yes.
Right.
So, for example, go ahead.
For the folks who are listening on audio, do check this out on YouTube. So you can see what Kristi's doing, because she's going to be demonstrating while she tells us. So off you go.
So absolutely, for just overall general wealth and health is we want to target our hip mobility and back mobility. So the first one I'm going to show you is called a hip car. So CARs stand for controlled articular rotations, but I won't nerd out too much. But essentially, we want to take that joint into its end ranges of motion, and that will help improve your mobility and strength. So bear with me, I have to angle the camera down a little bit here, but I'll try to explain as we go. So in standing, you're going to stand on one leg, and meanwhile, you're going to lift the opposite leg up into a march. And then if this one is too challenging, you could even just start at just a single leg marches, and that's going to work your hip, knee, and ankle stability. However, we're going to make this a little harder and do the full car.
Okay.
So the car is going to be the march, but then we're going to go out to the side. We're going to add rotation, and then we're going to go back and then up. So you can see that was a bit challenging for me. Yes?
I would say so. As I'm looking at the balance, there's a whole lot of, you were balancing on your left leg and doing the overall knee up and then all the way around at its maximum range of motion, I guess, and then behind you. And you were balancing as such. So
yes.
I'm guessing the downgrade for the folks who might not be as strong in one leg, or maybe not as well balanced, if you will, they can support themselves, or is that sort of cheating?
Yes. Too much? So for example, I have a wall right here to my left. And what you can do is you can either just put 2 fingertips on the wall or your whole hand if you need. Actually, I'll raise this up a bit. And basically all I'm going to show you is a march. So the march is going to be a much easier place to start. I'm going to have one hand on the wall, and I'm just going to practice, simple marches. What you don't want to see is you hyperextending, so leaning back through the back. So that's a cheat. Or tilting to the side. So if you see those things, then you need to put more support, your hand, maybe even on a counter.
I'm expecting that not only is this going to hit your hips, but folks who haven't done this much, they're going to feel it across the obliques and the core and such, right?
Oh, yeah. So absolutely, you're right. That's why I love this for golfers too, because so much of golf is core stability. And the core isn't just these superficial ab muscles. Our core is actually considered even our chest muscles, anything that's going to be from here to here, and then on our back as well. So just think everything kind of in the center. So yeah, my core has to be working in order for me to be able to even lift my leg.
Awesome. You as you were lifting your knee up in front of you, it was sort of to a right angle to the ground. Is that as high as we go, or do you try and push it farther than that?
With a car, so those controlled articular rotations, you want to go to as much like your end range ability. So for me, I could go a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But let's say you have pain though, if you go this high, then you'll go just shy of that. But you want to take it into that end range of motion. Yes.
Gotcha. And I'm expecting them then, as a result, as this gets done consistently, then maybe that end range of motion will move and get greater, correct?
You are correct. Yes.
Okay. So now how many times for us lazy folks should we do this a day and then a week?
Well, you know what? If you sit in a desk, I would actually recommend you do these daily. I would recommend you get up out of your desk at least twice a day, and you could do 3 sets of 10 per leg. So it sounds like a lot, but it'll actually go quite fast. And it at least gets you up out of your desk, and it gets your glutes and your hip flexors activated. And you're going to find you're going to be in way less pain if you get pain when you sit all day.
Sensational. Okay. That's the one of 5 you've shared. The second one is half kneeling with rotation. So this side has got a bit of a golf swing thing going with it.
Yes, I love this one for golf. I'm just going to lower the camera here a little bit. Why I love this one so much for golf is because so much of golf is, of course, you guys want, and you can tell me, you know way more about golf, but of course you want your lower body quite stable, but then we want the rotation to come through our upper back and our mid back. So that's going to be part of the challenge here. So for example, I'll just show you my feet first. So if in standing, you're going to take one big step back, and then the back heel will be lifted. Okay. And then from there, we're going to bend down into kind of like a split squat position. Yeah. Half kneeling. And then from there, we're going to put both our arms out straight in front of us. And then hopefully I have enough room here, but there's a wall behind me. But I'm going to rotate my arm away from my body. I have to move forward, away from that arm. And I'm going to turn and look back at the wall behind me. I wish I had a better camera for you, but.
So you're turning what Kristi has done there, folks, for the audio listeners. She's gone down into a split squat, and the example was with her right foot behind her. And then you're turning your right side, or you're going in the opposite direction, or you're going in both directions.
So if I'm going to have my left knee forward,
then
I'm going to rotate towards my left side.
Got you.
Like my arm is going to rotate left. You can honestly, you can do both. I do both.
Okay. Again, how well you mentioned the frequency and the number of reps for the first exercise, the cars. What should we do here? Is there a similar sort of an amount?
Yeah, I mean, like sets and reps, I always like to kind of start at 3 sets of 6. If that's easy, we can progress. Or 3 sets of 10 is fine as well. Yeah. This one might be a little harder for people, so I'd say 3 sets of 6.
I was about to say, because watching you do that, if you're turning sort of against, so for golfers listening, your left leg's forward for right-handers, and you're kind of turning towards the follow-through side. This is not the kind of thing you snap into and you do it real fast. This is more, again, controlled, real isometric sort of a movement, yes?
Yes, yeah. And if people are struggling with this one, let's see if I can move the camera down lower. Then you can also just kneel instead on the floor. Get into the half kneeling position, and then we can rotate. Hopefully you can kind of see. Then that way it's not as hard and strenuous on the lower body versus the other one. I was in that split squat position and my knee was lifted.
Yeah, and so just like in the first one, you have one who doing this would have to pay attention to the strength through the core. So when you're turning, you don't start tilting over or leaning backwards or forwards, or whatever the case might be, just to complete the motion.
You're right. So what we don't want to see is the upper body, the trunk side bending. And then also we don't want to hyperextend through the low back. So why I love this so much for golfers is because it's really going to build up your like thoracic mobility so that you can have that nice fluid swing. And it's going to help you have more power in your swing then. Because if we're limited here and we're kind of stiff through our back, you're probably not going to get your full benefit of your swing.
And I'm a big one for understanding. So for the folks who don't know all of the scientific terms, the thoracic region is kind of through the middle portion of the body, correct?
Correct. So think like from here to like here.
Righty-ho. Audio listener, she had her finger, she turned her back too.
Thank you.
And she had, was basically just pointing between her scaps, looked like, and then just
Yeah,
kind
kind of the top of the shoulder blades.
and underneath the rib cage ish.
Yeah, like I would say just above your low back, about one hand above the low back is your thoracic spine.
Fantastic. Right, two of five down.
Okay, this one is kind of fun. I like this also for people who sit in a desk all day, or if anyone has like tension headaches, shoulder pain, upper trap pain, any kind of upper body pain, you should do this one.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. Kristi and I have only spoken over the phone once and now over Zoom once. Last time we talked, I was having some horrid pain in my shoulder and I had a trip ahead and she said, Mark, get a tennis ball, just sit with a tennis ball against the airplane seat. I arrived in San Diego feeling like $1 million. Thank you. So I'm going to listen to you now. Go.
I'm so excited to hear that. I didn't know that. So I'm glad you listened. That's awesome.
No, I did.
So this one, I call them divers. Okay. So, I mean, this is, again, we want to get like your joints moving, especially from like mid back. So at about like bra line to anywhere up all the way to the top of your neck. So what I'm going to do is, in standing, I'm going to reach my arms forward and I'm going to, like, as if you're going to dive into the water thing that way. And I'm going to let my head and my neck curl. I'm reaching my arms in front of me and I'm like really working at that reach.
The stretch.
And then we're going to come back. We're going to open up our chest. We're going to take our chest and try to press it to the sky as I open my chest up and my arms are coming up to the sides. So one more time, I'll do that faster. Hopefully you can kind of see. So I'm going to dive forward, really rounding through that upper back. And we're going to open up our chest like that.
You know what I kind of imagine as a kid, you dive into the swimming pool and you get your arms in front, you round your back, then you hit the water. And when you start to come back out, you go with your arms in the opposite direction and you sort of reach your chest to the sky.
Yeah. I always think of like, and now I'm going to age myself, but you know how Care Bears, they're like, puff their chest up.
Well, look, I teach so many lessons where guys and girls get to the ground by just hunching their chest over and over. And their collarbone shrinks and their shoulders go all internal.
Here, I'll show you. This is
that old person look about them. Yeah,
people that look like this on their phone. So when you're all hunched over, looking at your phone all day, that's a great one for the people on their phone all day.
And a good golf habit is to get the shoulders back and down, the chest big, the chin up for the golf swing. Then you bend over from your hips. How about phone reading posture? What would you recommend? Because we're all doing it.
So for posture, instead of holding it so low, because look at the angle on my neck now. That's like the human head weighs about 8 pounds, but if you're Mark, then it's going to be 15 pounds because he's so smart. Just teasing.
That's because I got such a big head.
I'm just kidding. But if we're looking down all day, that's a lot of weight on our upper traps, our mid traps, our upper back. So I'd actually suggest, if you can, you still keep your elbows in, but if you can hold the phone up higher. Or what I've done is when I'm sitting, I'll even stack, I know this would look crazy, but it helps, some pillows and just rest my phone actually on the pillows and just do it that way.
Yeah.
Or just don't be on your phone as much.
It's amazing how we get into this prone sort of a position, because then when I do what you say and you raise the chest to the sky, I almost feel abnormal in a way.
Yeah, you'll be maybe
feeling like I'm leaning backwards, but it's just that I've been so heavy head forward and tilt over for so long.
And also, if you think about though, for golfers, because like, and again, maybe you can correct me there, but a lot of like, it is like hinging at the hips, but sometimes we get caught up rounding too much. So that will help with this.
I had a lesson with a guy yesterday, in fact, where all of his friends were saying to him, they're like, man, you look so tense and so hunched over. So the shoulders were up and he was rounded.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, and so they tell me this, but I'm tense. I guess I just got to loosen up. And the truth was that he was getting to the ground by just rounding his shoulders over instead of hinging from the hips as you described. So as soon as he learned to do that, then the rest of the stuff, he was able to improve it and still get the club down to the ball.
And then his golf swing would be way more efficient too.
And way more powerful as well, because again, you're incorporating everything in your upper body.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So that was divers to chest openers. Just think you were a kid, folks. And you can do these as many times. I don't think one could overdo these things, could you?
No, I would do honestly, I would do all these like once to twice a day. And you can't go wrong with just like your solid 3 sets of 10. The idea honestly is just getting up out of a prolonged position. So if you're sitting for prolonged periods because of work, it's about getting up out of sitting and moving your joints.
Yeah. Okay, dokes. Kristi, number
This
4.
next one I'm nervous to show, but not everyone I guess is going to see the visual. But
Go
it
ahead.
feels so good and it helps people so much, but I'm just giving you a warning that it looks funny, okay?
The standing pelvic tilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So standing pelvic tilt, the best way to teach it is in standing, take your hands and you're going to put it on the top of your hips or on your pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about as if you were about to pour water out of a big bowl.
Yeah, right.
So our pelvis, think of our pelvis as the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to pour water out the front, then the front of my pelvis has to move forwards.
Yeah.
Like that. So the side view, again, bear with me, it looks funny, but I'm tilting forward through my pelvis from neutral.
For the folks watching on YouTube, you're wearing joggers, I guess it is, and there's this white line essentially around what is the waistband, and you can actually see that line tilt forward.
Yeah.
You go in the opposite direction. And isn't
Exactly.
it crazy to you, like when you went back into neutral, even that white line or your pelvis was level with the ground, where so many of us, we tilt sort of toward the ground anyway.
I was actually going to say it's funny you picked up my impairment. Good job.
All right.
Actually, it's normal to have a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt, meaning where your pelvis is tilted slightly forward. So I'm going to try to relax my body. So there is a little bit, however, that could probably be improved on me. But so many people ask me, they say, do I have something wrong with my body or my back because they're tilted, when in reality, a little bit is actually normal.
Help me understand, Kristi, because look, you essentially you're moving your pelvis. Imagine the pelvis, and you're tilting it forwards and back. I'm expecting, as I'm sitting here on my chair doing it, I sort of feel like some of my abs and my core are raising the front side up. And
Correct.
then so what are the muscles that are moving this area around?
Absolutely. So our core, our obliques, our pelvic floor, too often our pelvic floor is kind of ignored, but more and more research is coming out about our pelvic floor. So for those of you who don't know what the pelvic floor is, it's the muscles that are inside of our pelvis. So remember how we talked about there being a bowl? Well, think about if you were to look down in that bowl, if you were to, this is maybe gruesome, but cut me off at the waist. If we were to look down, all the muscles from here down in the pelvis. So those muscles are very, very important also for just how our pelvis works and how our pelvis moves, and also our diaphragm, believe it or not. So that's why sometimes you'll hear a lot of healthcare workers or chiros or physios or doctors online really stress the importance of breath work. It's not just for like relieving stress. It also has to do with your pelvic floor health. So it's pretty cool.
Well, while we've got you, I'm thankful to have you. Recommend a breath exercise to people.
Okay, I love it.
Okay. I read a sensational book on the way somewhere called Breath by James Nestor. And it like woke me up in the worst way. And I was thinking to myself, breath is essential to life. You don't live if you're not breathing.
Yes.
The first thing one does is get slapped so you breathe.
Yes.
Yet no one teaches people how to breathe properly, and most of us are panting our ways through life. And we wonder why we're stressed and high blood pressure and just stuff's not going right.
Yes, you were correct. The easiest way to teach is you can do this one either in standing or sitting. So you could try to do it with me.
Right, go.
So what you're going to do is you're going to put one hand on your lower abdomen. So essentially, right there. And then the other on top over your chest. So you have two hands on you right now. So we're going to practice trying to breathe out of our lower abdomen, because too often we breathe really shallow and through our apical. So up here, we kind of breathe like, and that's bad. Well, not bad, but we just don't want that. We want nice, deep, full breaths, and we want the diaphragm to be working. So if you watch me, I'll do it maybe first. I'm going to breathe into my lower hand. Ready?
I see you. Kristi.
You kind of see it. It's kind of hard to see it move on me.
No, we can see it, what she's breathing in, and you can see her belly extending. Now that brings me with an observation to you. Hey, a lot of us watching this or listening to us don't have the flat abs that you do. And we're trying to pull our dad bellies in, not necessarily in them,
Yeah,
please.
all shapes and sizes are welcome here, but yeah, it might be a little easier to see. If you do this in a mirror too, it'll be easier. But what I like to do is I call it boxed breathing. So kind of like a square. So one option, just a great place to start is just 4 seconds, because it might be quite challenging if you've never done this before. So you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4, hold for 4. So if you can kind of think of it as like, if you're a visual learner like me, like a box, like a square breathing. So, but I kind of breathe pretty fast. You definitely want to feel your lower abdomen pushing into that lower hand as you do this.
This is crazy to me because you know what? I was the guy that always thought, okay, to calm myself down, because every golfer, every athlete listening to this, every business person, businesswoman, we have moments of stress, and golf is going to put you in stress. I don't care who you
Yes.
are and how good you are. And so I was like, well, breathe in. But the harder you breathe in and the less you breathe out, the more your heart rate starts elevating. And the more you exhale, the more the heart rate lowers and the system settles.
Yes.
When I learned that, I was like, this is earth shattering to me, because I was actually winding myself up.
Yes, you're very right. In terms of like even how our nervous system functions, our breath can control our nervous system, which also means like our breath work can help control pain. Because if we have higher stress and higher cortisol, if we have an injury, that pain can actually go higher because of that stress. So when you do this breath work, it kind of takes your nervous system, we call it the sympathetic nervous system, which is kind of like if you were to see a bear, like your body kind of goes like, your pupils get big. Yeah, your whole body goes into this fight or flight mode. However, when we do this kind of breathing that I just taught you, that will take your system, your nervous system, into a rest digest mode. So if you're fine, you kind of get tense with golf, absolutely. Let's say while your buds are chatting it up, you can just, like, no one will even notice. You can even just be practicing a nice controlled slow breath right before your shot.
Everyone's breathing anyway. You may as well do it properly, huh?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
That is cool, because a lot of these, because I can imagine myself now, I'm going into the half kneeling rotations that you showed us, and I can see me in the split squat and then turning against that, and I'm like, oh hell, this is hard. And then the next thing, I'm holding my breath while I'm doing it, whereas I still should be trying to breathe into my diaphragm.
Yes, you absolutely never want to hold your breath if possible. It's kind of another compensation or cheat to get strength where you need to be working the other areas.
Fantastic. All right, exercise drill number 5, please.
All right, so the last one was pelvic tilt, and I forgot to mention you also want to do a posterior tilt on that one too, so that'll look like that. So this is anterior tilt, posterior, but while I have you on this view, so back extensions are also in standing. I don't know if you noticed, most of them I try to get you guys standing because the majority of us are sitting.
Yeah, true.
So anyway, so in standing, you're going to make 2 fists with your hands. And you're going to put them on those bumps right there. They're called the PSIS, but little bumps on our low back. And you're just going to gently put them on there. Then we're going to just slightly lean back and then come forward. It should be nice and easy. Most people like crank it and it's like way too aggressive. But because we're sitting all day, and sitting is like a bent position, right? So we're taking you in the opposite position now into extension.
You know what's crazy? I'm a golf instructor too. I don't do it as much now given my broadcast career, but as an exercise that I give many golfers is I have them just sort of lie over a big Swiss ball. And remember when you can, but all of us listening, remember as a kid, you'd do a back bend like it was nothing. I mean, heck, I can barely get my hands back over there now. I can do a back bend, but it's with a lot of work, given that we're always going in the opposite direction.
Yes, this will help with exactly that same movement. Funny you brought that up, because I saw my husband doing that recently on the exercise ball too, like the full back bend, like what you said.
That is worthwhile if someone's mobile enough to do that, correct?
Yes, I like this. The standing one would actually be a kind of like a prerequisite to that one, probably, because it's a little bit safer to do.
All right, lovely. Okay, that's the 5 that everyone can do now, folks. Kristi's not going to let you get off lightly. She said to me before we went on the air, she goes, "I've got some heavier ones for golfers too, if they're up for it." I've got the list of them here, and I'm going to let you pick one or two and go ahead, please.
Okay. So, I mean, this is like a little bit more extensive. You can also grab like a resistance band, but for today, I have a med ball.
All right.
You would probably use like a bigger one, but because the camera's so small, I grabbed a small one.
So that's like a 10-pounder you got over there, right?
Oh yeah, it's probably not even.
Right.
I wanted to show the light version because I'm a wuss.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with starting light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just going to lower this down. So remember how I talked about with golfers, so much of it is like stabilizing certain parts of your body. Meanwhile, you're moving different parts of your body.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're going to work at is lower body stability. Meanwhile, AKA strength of your lower body to stay in one position. Meanwhile, improving the mobility of that thoracic spine, AKA your mid back.
Yes. Okay. Right.
So, for example, I love half kneeling because again, it forces you to be off balance. Because even if someone just stands in like a split stance,
Yeah.
so a split stance position, that's going to be way more challenging, right?
So, and you know, and the farther down you go, the more you're kind of hitting the quads and the glutes and everything, you know, without putting your knee on the ground, you're working hard over there.
Exactly. I'll try to show you from the front view and then I'll give you a side view. So again, I'm going to get in that split squat stance. So my one foot is back, the heel is lifted. I'm going to lower down. And then from there, we're going to do some med ball slams. So you're going to go like across the front knee. So my right leg is forward right now.
And you slam on your right side.
And slam while staying stable.
I can see one if you're slamming a med ball into the ground out of that split stance. It's going to be hard to keep yourself upright. You're going to want to wobble out of position very easily.
Yes. As you can see, I was actually quite wobbly. So I would probably start where my knee is on the ground. So there's no shame in that. If you have to start with the knee rested on the ground and then you come across and you slam, those are great.
How many?
Frequently. Again, so sets and reps always depend on your goal.
Okay.
So if your goal is strength, you're like looking at 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. If it's endurance, then we're going to have higher sets and reps. But I would suppose that most of the golfers want strength.
I can see this getting the heart rate up in a blink.
I'm like, I'm like dying over here. So the other.
That's a good overall exercise too, because you got the strength of the legs, the balance, you got the rotation, you got the slamming of the ball. I mean, it's essentially hitting everything.
Yes, exactly. So my other one that I like is adding in rotation. So I'll just show you in kneeling for now. But so for me to hold the medicine ball away from my body, that's challenging my core. And again, my lower body is going to stay stable as I rotate my upper body. So I'm going to rotate. I got to move over because I'm going to hit the wall. So you rotate away, then you rotate the other way. Whew, that is hard.
So audio listeners, while she's demonstrating there, what Kristi's doing is she's in the split stance with her one knee back and the other. She's kneeling on the ground, basically. She's holding this med ball out in front of her, chest high-ish, with straight arms, and she's just basically rotating what looks like almost a sprinkler from one side of her body to the other.
Yes, correct. And then if you really want to make it fun, if you have a partner, you could also have one person here and one here, and then you rotate away, and then you could toss it to your partner. So that adds a little power.
That's fantastic. Okay, that's a good one. Let's make it 3 just because then we got around 8 exercises. Give us one more.
Okay.
For the listener, she's clapping her hands and smiling. Cheshire Cat.
I love this stuff. Like I could talk about, especially like sports, like golf and volleyball. Like I could talk about this stuff all day. Right. Okay. So my other one favorite, especially for golfers, is like a landmine press. So for those that don't know what that is, there's usually like a bar in the gym that is on the ground, but it's attached. I don't know how to describe this, but anyway, the landmine press. So again, in half kneeling, I love my half kneeling. We're going to rest the knee on the ground though this time. And then you would take and you would press the landmine, the bar overhead. So
the landmine, for the folks that don't know, is imagine a barbell, the bar, and it's connected to the ground, and there's a weight on the end of it. And so Kristi's got a stick in front of her now, and then you're just pushing that thing up and down.
It's so hard to
I get it.
Like this, but it would be going up.
Well, look for folks like Kristi's right now got a stick in her hand. I'm guessing, Kristi, for folks that aren't as strong, even if they just got a broomstick in their hand, they lodged
Yes,
it basically against the wall, the
yes.
floorboard on the wall, and they got in their split stance and they pushed upward. That's plenty of work then
Yeah.
too.
Or even just a like dumbbell. Like if you just kneel. So yeah, if that one's too hard for you, you
Mhm.
could just kneel and then do a press overhead, like a shoulder press.
Yeah, I'm interested why you love this one so much because look, the landmine's got you pushing diagonally, but now you've modified it with a dumbbell or just the arm just to push straight to the sky.
Yeah.
With a kneeling position, I'm curious to know how this develops the body.
Yeah, everything that I'm forcing you into is really challenging your core stability.
Gotcha.
So remember how I said your core isn't just these lower abdominal muscles, it's like all our entire like trunk. So really, with me forcing you into the split stance, that's making your lower body stability super hard. It's really challenging because you're essentially kind of balanced. You're not really in balance, right? So with me only making you do one-sided shoulder press, the opposite side is having to stabilize. Wow, I'm really out of shape.
No, no, I understand. Well, it's also the pressure of talking while you're doing this, which brings
Yeah, maybe I'm not used to that. But for
brings
example, if you see this, even me just holding a weight here, I'm having to work at it not lowering me down.
yeah.
So even just having one side, a weight on one side is going to really challenge your
You know what?
stability.
I mean, well, what Kristi was doing there, folks, was she was in her beloved split stance, squatting essentially, split-legged squat, and she was just pushing the med ball above her head without tilting or without
Yeah.
tilting in the opposite direction. Which brings me
Yes.
to the travelers amongst us. You know, we've got suitcases you roll, but then if you're carrying a bag on one side, you start tilting so
I'm
badly,
so glad you said
you're
that.
preaching to the choir over here.
Okay, sorry, I lied. One more, okay, I promise.
Okay.
Okay, let's pretend that this is like a kettlebell or a suitcase, like as you mentioned, okay? So my other favorite, and I literally just did this last night in the gym because it's
Uh,
that much of a favorite, is we're gonna go on to one leg. So we're standing on one leg. I have the weight on that same side, or sorry, opposite. Okay, and then we're going to march as I'm holding the weight on this side. So this whole side is having to stabilize, right? So
yeah.
that this heavy weight doesn't pull me. So I have to stabilize myself because again, the weight is on one side only.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna add the march in. So from the side, it'll look like this.
So without the car, without the articular rotation, the first exercise where you were just in your march, right? Now you've
Yeah,
added,
that was probably more a march. Yeah.
yeah. Now you're adding weight to the side where you're lifting the leg off the ground, and you
Yeah.
got to stay upright without tilting towards the weight.
Yeah. So it's just adding a ton of like it's making your whole body and all of your stabilizers work overtime.
Okay, two more questions because I know you got clients to go and see. The first thing I think about that is like everyone wants the beach abs, okay? Especially everyone. And so everyone goes and then they do crunches and stuff. But all the stuff you're showing us, this is going to hit your abs quicker than anything else.
Oh, I rarely do crunches. I'm not saying that crunches are necessarily like bad, but they're not necessarily my go-to exercise. Everything I just showed you, like that is heavily, heavily core related. Like I really like functional based core exercises
Yeah.
personally.
And then
Yeah.
we talked about the breathing while you're in the rotations and stuff like that. But when now you're propelling this med ball,
Yes. So
when do we
usually
bring
I
it
like
in?
to,
When do
oh,
we
go
breathe
ahead.
out? No, when is the inhale and the exhale during the movement?
For me, my cue I like to tell people is to do the expiration or breathe out.
Yeah.
Just think of on the hardest part. That's just the simplest way for people to kind of pick up on it. So if the hardest part is me marching, so if
Yeah.
I'm marching my leg up while I'm holding the weight, then I would breathe out as I march up. So,
Yeah.
and it's easier to lower my leg, right? So I breathe in,
Yeah.
kind of like that.
And I notice how you breathe. The real professional breathers in the gym, you'll see them, they all kind of purse their lips and
Yeah,
they're blowing air out of their mouth. Really.
yeah,
The
yeah.
reason.
You're just gonna get more like efficiency out of that diaphragm. It's just gonna
Okay.
help kind of trigger that a bit better.
Well, I guess because like I had a gym instructor challenge me in a breathing exercise to breathe out as far as I could. And then when I felt like my lungs were empty, I had to give like one last blow out the candle thing. It was
Yes.
amazing how there still is air inside of your body.
Yes, I've done that before. And
Mhm.
then I think I also tested after, like, you continue to expire several times like that, and then you see how long you can hold your breath after the next inhale. And I usually can never hold my breath past 40 seconds. After I got all the air out and I expired like that, I was able to hold my breath for like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. It was so cool.
What? Okay, that is cool.
Yeah,
That sounds hard.
it is hard. Yeah.
What is the intrinsic value of that?
That actually, well, that's like where I need to do more research, if I'm being honest. I was just I briefly came across it on TikTok, believe it or not, and
Mhm.
like also some Wim Hof methods,
Yes.
if you've heard of that.
Hmm.
So I need to do a little more research, but I would suppose just like anything, it's training your muscles how to inhale and exhale properly
Yeah.
and fully and being able to fully expand them to get the full function. Just kind of like our joints, like I said, you want to take it to its end ranges. Probably the same, I would suppose, with the diaphragm.
Okay, I've got to sneak one more in here because as you're talking about the breathing, and I'm watching you do this, and folks, you got to watch because her passion is infectious. Um, I keep on thinking of the self-awareness this is taking because as a golf teacher, I will give advice or counsel to someone, then you recommend for them to do it, and then they're just moving through this movement fast, and there's
Yeah.
no real change happening. Where everything
Yes.
that you're doing from the breathing to the exercise, I can see like a focus toward doing this properly as opposed to doing it with as much weight as possible.
Absolutely correct. I'm very if you follow my page, you'll see I'm very much so about quality movement and also simplifying the process. Like,
Yeah.
so I like to really break things down. I find, at least for me, I learn a lot faster. And I also believe, I truly believe full heartedly, when people know how to do it properly, they're going to be more likely to do it.
All right, folks. She's talked about her page and she finds things on TikTok. You're prolific on Instagram. That's why I found you the first time. Please share the handles where folks can find you.
Cool. All my handles are pretty similar. It's at reach, as if you're like reaching for something,
Yeah.
.rehab. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm even on Pinterest. I actually
Mhm.
wish more people knew I was on Pinterest because Pinterest is so amazing because it puts everything into files essentially.
Yeah.
So if you're tired of scrolling on Instagram, trying to find where's the back post, on Pinterest, it's just in the back folder. So, but
Fantastic.
anyway, my Instagram, I'm on the most.
And for the folks who aren't in, well, the folks who are in Canada, and maybe whoever it is wants to travel up there, please tell them where you work, because I know you broke away from your previous organization and you went solo, right?
I went back. I missed it,
Okay.
everyone, so much. So I'm at Stapleford Health and Rehab Center, and that's actually where I am right now. And I'm working part-time there. So it's honestly, I feel so spoiled that like doing part-time in clinic and part-time like online has just been magic, honestly.
Well, magic, you have been magic. I appreciate all the advice, the extra advice you gave us. Kristi, thank you so very much. I appreciate everything you do for all of us around the world.
Thank you. And I love this. I'd love to come on again if you ever want me again.
You got it.